string, pull the string!
Scully, wow, wow, wow.
High area backstage. I've been drawing them as like a hobbyist since I was a kid. You know, made my own little ash can books, you know. Take the standard sheet of paper, fold it in half, staple it, type of thing. I think my first official comic was Digital Webbing number 29. Fist of Justice, and that was my first nationally distributed book. You know, I published a few things in college, just locally at Cedar City and things like that. But yeah, Digital Webbing was my first publication. And after I did stuff for them, I moved on to Boom. I did Warhammer for Boom. And that led to Blood Rain. I went back to Digital Webbing, did Blood Rain, and then Blood Rain led to DC Comics. Anytime I did a book, I would take it to the San Diego Comic Convention and make sure I put it in front of editors. And one of those years, you know, they used to have like a whole submission process at San Diego. You'd go and listen to like this panel about submitting to DC, and then you had to follow all these specific instructions. And I dropped my portfolio off one year, and lo and behold, my name was on the list of people who made the cut. And I got in a room where there's probably about 20 DC editors, and I got ripped apart by every editor in the room. You know, like I thought if you made it into the room, like you'd made it, but it was just like it was more of a, well, we like what we see, but you know, here's all the stuff you're doing wrong, and here's our business card.
Oh wow!
And so here's the thing, though. Here's the moral of that story. I had their business cards at that point, and I had to submit stuff for 2 years after making the San Diego talent cut. I submitted stuff for 2 years until I finally got an assignment by Joey Cavallari. And then once I started working for DC, then Marvel called, and it all sort of snowballed. I was doing a book for DC and a book for Marvel every month, and burning the candle on both ends, and did that for about, I don't know, a couple of years at least. And then Mark Waid called and said, do you want to do a book with me and Stan Lee called The Traveler? And I was a huge Mark Waid fan and you know, I'm like, Stan Lee was one of my gods, you know, so you don't turn down Stan the Man. So went and did The Traveler, and it was very different. You know, when I did stuff for Boom and for Digital Webbing, I just did finished pencils. And then when I went to DC and Marvel, they had inkers. And so I learned to really like the way my stuff looked inked. And I went to Traveler and tried to go back to finished pencils, and I was like, this just doesn't have the punch that inks do. So I taught myself to ink on the Traveler. And that lasted a year. We had a lot of fun, but eventually all good things come to an end. And ended up doing Dragon Age for Dark Horse. And it was really interesting working with Dark Horse because they gave me 6 weeks for each book instead of 4. And I pretty much almost painted every panel using alcohol-based markers. And to this day, I really think some of my best work showed up in in that Dragon Age book for Dark Horse, and it really caught a lot of attention too, especially in Russia. Apparently Dragon Age is huge in Russia because they hacked my computer to get a sneak peek at some of the pages. True story. And after Dragon Age, went back to Joey Cavalieri called me back up, says we want you back at DC, put me on Demon Knights. And I was doing Demon Knights for a little while, and then filling in for Superman, and Supergirl. And I went to Comic-Con one year, and I was finishing up an issue of Justice League, doing Shadow Thief, and I was doing fill-in pages for Supergirl. And my wife was driving our Prius home, and I was working on a double-wide spread of Supergirl on the road trip home from San Diego. And we got home, I scanned it, I sent it off, I hit my deadline by 2 hours.
Wow.
But, and then I slept for like 2 days. And what I was expecting from that though was to get a call from Eddie Berganza saying, hey, we want you to take over Supergirl. And instead I got an email from Mike Marks saying, hey, do you want to do Harley Quinn?
Nice.
And that's when everything changed.
The wind in my hair and the Batman at my heels. It's the kind of night that makes you glad to be alive. Right, Harley?
That's when your world changed, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like drinking from the fire hose. You know? I mean, I had every faith. I mean, I've loved Harley since Batman animated series.
Right.
And, watched every episode of that. That, to me, that was like the definitive Batman. Even more than the comics, really. I mean...
Oh.
I know, right? Blasphemy. Don't tell me.
No, that's cool, actually. I liked it too. So,
well, it was just so cohesive, the look, the feel, the story. And, obviously I loved Harley. And, I mean, honestly, like, and here's the cool thing, like, my girls were watching it on Netflix, and when I got the assignment, they were just as excited as I was, because they, been watching this. They were excited. It was a lot of fun. And then it was really funny. I remember being told by the DC, editorial that they expected Harley to sell about 40,000 issues for the issue number 1, and cancellation after issue 20. So they really were like, just sort of have fun with it, do whatever you want. And then it just, I mean, issue number 1 was reprinted 5-6 times, something, insane
crazy,
amount of time. And people loved it, and I know somebody at Warner Brothers, like the instant we sold that many books, someone was like, okay, we gotta have a Harley Quinn movie. And now I'm working for him again, so.
Cool is that? That's awesome. That's very cool.
But it's always a good time. They're good people. They're the best people, actually. They're friends with everyone, and so it's like getting paid to play.
I hear you. I hear you.
First comic book I read, okay. My friend Mark Barrianuevo had a collection, and I honestly cannot remember the first book I read, but I can remember the first book I bought.
Okay.
Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 11, where Spider-Man battled the evil Tony Stark of the future from 2016. The evil future, Tony Stark.
2016.
And lo and behold, I mean, it's almost like Spider-Man knew back then that Iron Man would be a big deal in 2016.
He knew, yeah.
And I mean, honestly, like, that Iron Man was probably a lot like the Iron Man that we see in the movies, just, power tripping and whatnot. But,
right.
And then X-Men was huge.
John Byrne, X-Men when we were young.
My first issue of X-Men was X-Men 210. John Romita Jr., Chris Claremont.
Nice.
But I've collected almost all the X-Men back to issue 62, and then I have all the X-Men since.
Nice.
Have all the New Mutants. I love New Mutants. I can't wait for the movie. People always ask me, like, if they give me a choice, like, well, draw me your favorite character growing up. It'll either be Magic or Wolfsbane. I tend to side on the side of Magic because I don't know. People just do not dig Wolfsbane the way I dig Wolfsbane. But yeah. So all that stuff. Wolverine, Phoenix, Rachel Summers, Phoenix, not Jean Grey, Phoenix.
Gotcha.
Nightcrawler, Colossus. I mean, that was just. I mean, there just was not a better comic on the planet than X-Men when I was growing up.
What main advice you give your students? Because I know you
My
have...
students, number one, draw all the stinking time, okay? Put your phones down, get off your Xboxes, try and focus for, 4 to 6 hours just drawing. I think that's the biggest thing I battle is attention span. If you're going to be an artist, you've got to learn to sit your butt down and draw all day long. And I have students that, I kid you not, I teach a figure drawing class, and I have students looking at their phone, texting with one hand, drawing the model with the other hand, and the model's over here. And if I thought I could slap the shit out of them without getting, fired,
You do it.
do it. Because I'm just like, you're sitting here, you're paying money, a lot of money, to take this stupid class, and you're not even looking at the model. But anyway, and I say that, and then I have a lot of really good students too. So, but yeah, they need to throw, they need to put their phones down, they need to put their iPads down, they need to get off social media, they need to put down the Xbox, and they need to focus and draw more. Because here's the thing, they are competing in a global market, okay? And there's some kid in a third world country who wants that job a whole hell of a lot more and is willing to do it for a fraction of the price.
Right.
And they're not being distracted by cell phones and Xboxes. They are drawing their asses off, and they're going to get the job. And you know what? As they should.
Right. They put in the time.
So, right. So, anyway. But, yeah, being an artist is hard. There's a reason why, there's a term, starving artist. Obviously, I'm not starving. Ladies!
Me too.
Hey, ladies! But it's hard. And if you're going to be successful, you got to put the time in. So, anyway, does that answer?
Yes.
Say this. I'm pretty sure that DC Legal drinks very heavily when my pages come. They're like, oh God, Hardin pages, break out the whiskey.
Nice.
Yeah, I've had a lot of Harley stuff turned down. Matter of fact, Jimmy and I have both talked with Dan, begging him for like an uncensored Harley.
Right.
It'll never happen.
I've
been assured by my editors
It'll
that
never happen. Gotcha.
Maybe before I die, whoever
sneak it in
opens
there?
up my will find, all the pages as they were originally supposed to be. But anyway.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing that someday.
It definitely happens. But we're naughty people.
Of course.
And there's some stuff. Can I say shit?
Yeah.
There's some stuff that makes it past, like the vibrator joke that made it in that one issue of Hollywood in the movie theater. I don't know how that slipped past me.
Gotcha.
Every now and then we manage, but anyway, it's good times. Like I said, Jimmy and Amanda are that type of people. So anyway, yeah, stuff gets censored all the time.
Gotcha. Who started you off into that path? Who was that artist that really did it for you? You said
Arthur Adams.
Arthur Adams, gotcha.
X-Men Annual number 10, where he did the X-Babies.
Gotcha.
And then, and I'm one of these guys where if I like someone, like if I like an artist or I like a writer, I'll go back and I'll find everything they did. It's a long shot, Mojo World, I read everything. And to this day, Arthur Adams, anything he does, anything that Silvestri, I'm still a huge Jim Lee fan, like all the Image guys, Travis Charest, Mike Minola, Dave Gibbons, Masamune Shiro. I mean, you name it. I got like 100 artists. Like if I go in the comic book store and I see their names, I'm just like, man, you know. And then I'm studying it. I've always studied it, you know. I mean, seriously, I learned to draw by like, you know, people give Rob Liefeld shit all the time, but to me, Rob Liefeld was like a hero because like he was my age and he was drawing. But you know, then it evolves as you get older. You know, you look, and here's the thing: like I look at Arthur Adams. Well, Arthur Adams' style is a lot like Drew Struzan's style, who's a lot like oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name. But there's another artist that predated Struzan. God, what is his name? He did the original Indiana Jones poster before Drew did all the other Indiana
Steranko?
No.
I know he did one.
Anyway, this is what happens you get old, you just forget shit. But long story short is, you know, everybody has like these artistic influences. Like, okay, Barry Windsor Smith, you know, he looked at some of these pre-Raphaelite painters and drawers, you know, and, you know, so, you know, the more education you get, the more you see, and it all basically goes back to, you know, some of these basically, you know, the masters, you know, it goes back to, you know, the great artists of, you know, the Baroque and Renaissance and, you know.
How about Surrealists? Do you like Surrealists?
Oh, God, you know.
Or what about the op art? Because that came out when you were kids.
Not really.
Gotcha.
You know, nothing, and thank God, you know, postmodernism is sort of dead. You know, I think a lot of that shit is the Emperor's Clothes. I'm gonna get crucified for saying this stuff, but you know, if I don't see craftsmanship, if I don't see drawing ability, if I don't see that stuff, it's like, you know, I was like, you're just making a bullshit, you know. You know, Pollock, you know, and don't get me wrong, I've gone to and I've seen Pollock, and there is something admirable about what he did, but for the most part, he was just an asshole throwing paint on the canvas and tricking people into buying it. So I guess that's where the artistry is being like a Warhol, where you're fucking selling like a Campbell's soup can painting for like 14 million. Like, hats off to you guys. Yeah. There's dipshits out there willing to waste their money on it, but
right.
You know, you know, Warhol and Albert Dorr were contemporaries that hated each other, and I was always in the Albert Dorn, you know, camp, where it's like, you know, if you can't draw, then fuck you.
Gotcha.
You know? Anyway, so
awesome, buddy.
That's my 2-bit.